Speaking of designers, Dan, you've got a story to tell. Hey, all you Frosthaven, Gloomhaven people, you're talking to one of the celebrity designers of Frosthaven scenarios. How did that come about?
So I've always been one of the biggest fans of Gloomhaven. Famously, people may not remember, but we always do, and BJ for the last 3 years has been on the Geek Allstars for our top 11 to try and buy for Gen Con. So for 3 years in a row, way back when, I want to say it was like 16, 17, and 18, I had Gloomhaven on my to try list before anybody even knew who Isaac or Gloomhaven was. I've just been such a huge proponent of the game. I've just loved it ever since it came out. So I guess Isaac just kind of added me to that list of about 20 or so people that he got as guest designers. And, there's all sorts of people in the industry, even Justin Jacobson, we talked about it on the last Geek All-Stars. I kind of did we did designer diary. I had just a great time designing it. I have 2 scenarios in Frosthaven. I think it's number 87 and number 88. It's in the base game. Some of these, the guest designers, some of them are kind of random scenarios like that you come across, whether it be just when you get a random scenario from a chest or picking up a treasure, you may get one of those random scenarios, or you encounter it through whether the outpost event or road event, you may encounter it. So I can't remember how mine is. I think it's an outpost event that you can encounter mine. And, it's been a little bit mixed what we have because like some of the others, so a lot of the guest designers, myself included, we kind of went a little nuts with some of the rules in them and stuff like that. So some people really like the rules. Mine is, without spoiling anything, the thing with Gloomhaven and Frosthaven is a lot of times people are just YOLO all over the map, just going in here, opening this door, going in that. Well, I kind of put this thing in a place in one of my scenarios where you really need to be prepared for the final room.
Is it a green ring that has a power of a lantern?
That's right. Yep. You got to find the lantern. You got to find the green lantern, and then you open the final door. But if you go into that final room as YOLO, it's going to be a really hard one. And people have kind of complained about how hard that final room can be because there's a situation where you can lose, and there's something that you got to do in a final room. But it's not necessarily hard if you actually have planned for it. And it scales pretty well for 2, 3, and 4 players. It may be a little difficult to, again, if you YOLO it, it could be a little difficult.
Right.
However, it is a lot of fun, and the story is pretty cool. I had a lot of fun. And there is since it's a 2 scenario, there is a boss in the second one who can be a little nutty as far as rules go, and I apologize for that. I got a little carried away with that, but it is a fun fight for sure.
What kind of direction did Isaac give you?
So
good question.
He kind of gave us pretty much carte blanche where he asked us, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but he asked kind of like what my idea was for the scenario. So I kind of outlined everything, and I had like 2 spreadsheets and 3 pages of notes and everything else. And he said, "Oh, this is a great idea. Go with it." And he gave me a couple of like ideas of things to scale back and such. And they kind of changed how they wanted the boss scenario. So my second scenario, which was kind of a little bit longer of a scenario, they kind of tuned it down to just more of a 2-room boss scenario rather than just kind of the longer one. So I may see about trying to print out what it was originally, because some people who play Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, they love extra scenarios. So I may actually kind of put it up somewhere so that if anybody wants to actually play how I originally designed it, they could. So I'm sure there's a scenario maker. There's got to be tools that can be made that I can kind of actually put it out there for how it was originally. But it's just but it's cool. So of course Isaac knows, he's got formulas for everything. So like as far as the difficulty in kind of the monsters and in what you can do per, like how long it can be, how many monsters per player count, and then he kind of tweaks it as far as after and I did a whole lot of places. I think I played mine about 40 or 50 times, those 2 scenarios, with all sorts of different player counts. Again, when we were doing this, it was right in the middle of heart of COVID, if I remember correctly, when we were putting the finishing touches. So you had time on your hands to sit there and play these scenarios a million times. Sure. But yeah, I just wanted to make it good. And so hopefully I'd love to hear anybody out there, if anybody has played, my 2 scenarios. I do searches online and I watch people play, mostly it's easier to find them on YouTube as they do it solo, because those are kind of who you see more of putting up, because people that are playing it solo.
So you've seen people do the scenario on YouTube?
Yep, I sure have.
That's kind of a cool thrill.
Yeah, it is pretty cool when you're like, wow, yeah, that was that was pretty.
That's my thing.
Yeah, I was like, and it seemed to be pretty well received from that. But again, I'm not perfect. I would love, hopefully, if he ever does anything Haven again, I get the opportunity to do more scenarios, because it was a blast, and the ideas are just flowing after you play more Frosthaven, like other things that you really want to do with some scenarios. So
well, I hate to be the spoiler, but he did announce privately the third campaign for it. There's Gloomhaven, Frosthaven, and the third one, Steve, of course, is Swamp Haven. It's set in Louisiana, so
as it should be.
I can't wait to see those scenarios come up. So, Dan, do you get a designer credit? Like, are you a designer on BGG now? Because
I probably could. I think you have to like just click on something and then email them, and I could get a designer credit for it. For sure, and because you're listed in the rulebook as a designer, and you did a couple scenarios, so absolutely, I should be able to have a designer credit for that.
Steve, you got any questions about the Frosthaven scenario there?
No, this is very cool, and I love the idea that it's like a super secret pop-up menu. All of a sudden, this happens, and here, welcome to Dan's little part of the world.
And I can't lie, I'm not gonna lie, like it is fun, like if you're at an FLGS and people are like, oh, have you ever played Frosthaven? And then sometimes you want to be like, oh, have I? And let me tell you.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It's very cool.
I hadn't thought about that.